We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. I've not necessarily back, but if you watch the preseason NHL Weeklies, welcome back. But if you are new to the channel here for NHL Weekly, this is week 1 of the 2022-2023 season. Let me move that down just a little bit. We've got a couple little small facelifts that we're going to try out this week. First one we're going to try out, I actually want to show to you guys right now and see what you like about it. We've got this new one. So hopefully this all works and you guys are seeing me in this camera. Yeah, I've got 2 cameras. I'm fancy. It's technically just one on my computer. One on my computer. Oh no. One on my computer and one from a webcam that I've had for a while, which is also the same webcam that I use for the JMO show, but I didn't have a use for NHL Weekly yet. Hopefully, now that we've got that figured out, we can now see the statistical analysis that I keep talking about every week. Just that tiny bit better. I want to be able to kind of immerse you guys into what I'm looking at, as well as kind of getting a placeholder that you can literally just look as I'm talking. This is not a podcast or anything like that. This is supposed to be visual. So hopefully this works out. You guys like it. But for now, let's move over here. So let me get this one up. And I think it'd be a little obvious for me to say biggest news piece of the week is the fact that the NHL 2022-2023 season officially kicked off technically past a week ago. So so we had games between the San Jose Sharks and the Nashville Predators that technically happened. Well, not technically. One game happened on Friday, I believe, and then one happened on Saturday. So technically, we have one extra game from what would be considered the first week if there were more than one game in that week. So we just added that game into here. It didn't necessarily change a whole lot for if I look really quickly. Nashville is at the top of the Central Division with 3 games played, 4 points, 2-0. That is not correct. 2-0-1. Yeah, I had it right on here. I was just reading it wrong because I'm dyslexic. AF, I guess. Another one of those cringe moments that we're just going to start right off the bat here at NHL Weekly here with who can only be described as a completely incompetent host, myself. Just a fan of hockey in general. We've got the stats are being edited as we speak because Andrew keeps screwing stuff up. But we're going to start off with, again, saying welcome to the channel. First week here. Really excited to show you everything that I've got planned for today on the stats side. Again, I will say that the JMO show is going to be more geared towards the biggest news stories. We had one on the preview of the whole season, the review of the regular season, the review of the preseason, the preview for the regular season, my predictions for the season as a whole for the regular season plus the playoffs, and then the latest one that we put up was on Connor McDavid scoring 701 points in only 488 games. Hoping that you guys like that one. It's definitely diving into the statistics a little bit more than what I planned on for the JMO show to be. Other JMO show things that we're gonna have in the future. Once St. Louis plays their first game, we're gonna be doing a JMO show talking about the first game of every team. We also have a first round pick video that is in the works, as well as a 10 games into the season run. And then most likely, if there is a team that goes on an extensive win or loss streak, we will probably do something on that, seeing if there's any way for them possibly to get back into the running. Other than that, I think we've got everything newsworthy, at least on my side. Like I said, unless there's some big massive news story like Huso and the Red Wings posting the first shutout of the season, I will be putting it in the JMO show. We are all over the place today. So without a further ado, let's get into the stats section of this. Hello everybody. We'll start in the Eastern Conference. We've got the Atlantic Division. Now I'm gonna double check really quick. Sorry. Yeah. So we'll do this one first. Eastern Conference. We'll do divisions first, and then we will look at the wild card. Got Boston, Buffalo, and Detroit at the top of the Atlantic. Carolina, New York, and Pittsburgh at the top of the Metro. Definitely not who people were assuming were going to be at the top of the divisions, but as it happens every year, Buffalo and Detroit seem to always be at the top in the first week or two, and then drastic go down. But as you can see there, Florida is tied actually with everybody else at the top. So technically we have 4 teams tied for first place in the Atlantic, and then Carolina, New York, and Pittsburgh actually being tied for third with Philadelphia. So Pennsylvania is doing pretty decently right now. And then just a whole lot of teams in the Metro that have not won a game yet. New York Islanders, the Devils, Washington Capitals, and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now let's go down to the Western Conference. And as you can see, we are all set and ready for several weeks into the future on this. And one thing I will say is that every week we will look at the week that was individually, as well as collectively is where we'll get these stats from, the division and wild card. And then I don't know if I'm gonna care to do the whole league. It's something that I can just kind of look up on my phone real quick and maybe say Carolina's at the top of the entire league or something like that. But usually what will happen over here with this one is this will be week to week, showing where they are in the rankings week to week. So with this one over here, sorry to zoom around, this one is going to be the one that's going to show us which team did well in that individual week. So if for instance, for this first week, we've got 4 teams with 4 points, they would top that individual week. Next week, it might be 3 or 4 other teams. But anyways, so in the West, we've got Nashville, Dallas, and Winnipeg in the Central. And then in the Pacific, we have Vegas and Seattle. And then we have Calgary. That is Calgary, not Calgary. There we go. We've got Calgary, Edmonton, and Anaheim all tied for that third spot. Now, if we go over to the wild card, as I've said before a couple times on this channel, once we get some more parity going, meaning as teams start to win and lose more often, it's gonna lessen out all of those tiebreakers. But for this instance, we actually have a definitive wild card spot with Philadelphia and Florida taking those 2 wild card spots. No tying or tiebreakers or anything like that. Tampa Bay finally getting a win last night, I believe, and then Toronto also getting a win, and then Montreal won against Toronto and then lost to Detroit last night. In the West, we have Nashville and Vegas at the top there, and then we've got another no tiebreaker this week, which is very rare for that first week. Edmonton and Anaheim tied for those two wild card spots. The typos in this document are just awful. So like I said, I got everything mapped out for the next couple weeks to come. And then looking at the entire league, at the top we've got Carolina and Vegas, and then tied for second is tied for third is New York and Nashville, and then Seattle with that one win and then a loss in overtime. And then one of the more interesting brackets we will be looking at is this one here, where we'll be seeing, be tracking exactly what it is that each team did in that week. So right now we've got one team with 3 losses, collectively San Jose, and then the teams that have multiple games with wins is the only team right now is Carolina. We've got a lot of teams that have only played 1 game so far, so we'll see if those teams can hold out into the next couple weeks, or next couple games, I should say. I'm trying to remember who was I think, wasn't it St. Louis last year that was I would have to look it up, who was the Ironman streak from this last year. So that is going to do it for team stats. We're going to move over to individual stats now. For goals, we've got no shocker at all. In his 1 game played, Connor McDavid has 3 goals. Nichushkin has 3. Niederreiter, Stamkos also have 3, and then just a lot of people with 2. And then a lot of people with 1. I'm only going to be going to 25, I think, because I have to put all this stuff in manually myself each individual week. Plus, then I'm going to be going on to a site that compiles it all week to week, and that's going to make it a little bit easier for me to present it all to you. That website I cannot show on here, I don't think, or I can, and I just don't tell anybody. But actually, we're going to stay over here. For assists, it's Panarin and Rantanen, from Colorado, and then McKinnon, Pasternak, Riley, and Sagan, all with 3 apiece, and then just a lot of people too. I'm going to try to be less jerky when I'm doing this. I forget that you guys can see it as well. The only defenseman in that top 5, Morgan Riley, right at 5, and then we've got Tony DeAngelo, Ferraro, Shane Gostisbehere. I almost didn't do it, but I remembered Gostisbehere. Eric Gustafsson, and then the only other defenseman in here is Klingberg from Anaheim. I'm just gonna double check. Adam Fox is the only defensive player in the top 25 for goals. And then if we compile those two together, we're going to get points. We've got Panarin at the top of the heap with 6 points, Rantanen with 5, Lankinen with 4, and then a bunch of other people with 4, McKinnon, McDavid, Martin Necas, Pasternak, and Zibanejad. You would think that Zibanejad would be a harder one for me to say, but I've actually been watching quite a few of their games in the last couple days, because One little thing that I do have to say is that I do not have enough money to be able to get all the channels to be able to watch every single game. So it's whatever is on ESPN Plus that day, whatever is on TNT that day, minus the games in my area, which would be any Detroit Red Wings game, and then I also would just look them up online, which I know you're not supposed to do, but I do it anyways. Defensemen in the top 25 for points, we have Riley, 2 goals, 2 games played, 3 assists with 3 points. Now, one thing that I would like to do in the future is keep track of teams in that top, but I think that might be a little redundant, and you will see why in a minute. Going over to the top 10 goalies, I was gonna do top 50 for both players and goalies, but it just takes so much time to do it. I'm gonna do top 25 players, top 10 goalies. So we might have a lot of well, actually I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that we're not gonna have a lot of tying on stuff, because at any given night every single game is gonna have a different score and shot percentage. So it's gonna every single goalie is gonna have a completely different number. At least I think enough of a different number after the first couple games. So we've got Detroit, Ville Husso at the top, 1 game played, 1 shutout already for Detroit, 0 goals against, save percentage at 100, and then both Andersons for Carolina and Buffalo, goals against average 1. And then we got a bunch of other people with 1, you can see there, and then Logan Thompson at the bottom, 1.5 goals against average in 2 games played. Only goalie so far in the top 10 with 2 games played. 2 games played. Looking at save percentage now, obviously Detroit with Husso with that shutout getting 100% save percentage. Hopefully they start him in the next game, give him that boost of energy they play tonight. So hopefully they give him the start after this game, give him something to really boost his motivation on. Hellebuck with a .976 save percentage, and then going down from there to Logan Thompson at the bottom with a .947, tied with Rantanen. Is that supposed to be anti-Ranta? Ranta? One thing that I should be doing every week is making sure that I can actually pronounce everybody's names. Going over to 2 of my favorite stats of the week, it is the points for and points against for each team. Points for at the top of the heap is the New York Rangers, already with 30 points on the season, obviously collectively. And then you've got Colorado, Nashville, Seattle, and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh tied with Tampa and Toronto to take that number 5 spot. At the bottom, we have St. Louis, obviously, who's not played a game yet, and then Ottawa and New York Islanders with only 3 points apiece in their 1 game played. If we go over to goals or points against, obviously St. Louis at the bottom because they've not played a game yet. San Jose Sharks already giving up 26 points this season. Detroit giving up 0. Detroit with a shutout in the very first game of the season. Looking pretty decent right now. Obviously, they scored 3 goals in that first game, putting them at 9 points. And then one thing that I do want to look at, Edmonton with 13. So 5 goals, 8 assists. Let's put that in perspective that McDavid had 4 of those 13 points in that first game. Absolutely ridiculous. At some point, I'm going to have to stop talking about him and try to talk to about somebody else. But when you do statistical analysis like this, every week he's going to do something crazy that's going to make you have to talk about him, whether it's putting up 50 points in a game, putting you know, five goals in a game, 13 assists in a game, whatever it is, that's going to put him at the top of almost every single stats chart that I do, apparently. Dallas and a couple other teams, Buffalo, Florida, and Winnipeg, also doing very well in the points against. And yeah, so I'm going to move back over to this screen because we are done with stats. And if I look at this, we're only at 20 minutes and 30 seconds. Usually this takes me 30 minutes. So I would have to say this has been a pretty successful week 1 here. But I would also say that if I can get this going again, there we go, that every week there's going to be a little bit more that we're doing. We're going to be looking at what I had talked about with the ranking shifting up and down with where people land each week. So in this first week, if I go back over to that stat, Carolina was at the top, and then Vegas, and then New York Rangers and Nashville, and then Seattle in the top 5. So if any of those guys drop out of the top 5, they would be having a negative ranking. Essentially, you go up or down in the rankings. So if San Jose wins like 15 games in the next week, they would most likely be a plus 31. They moved from 32nd up to 32 first place, or 32, whatever that number is. So if as teams are moving around throughout the season, we'll see, and we'll be able to see at the end of the regular season, hopefully, like Carolina and Vegas, if they drop out of those first 2 spots and never get back up there, then at the end of the season, we'll say Carolina and Vegas 1 week at the top, or their highest ranking was number 1 or tied for number 1. So yeah, we've got a lot that we'll be looking at in the future, as well as a couple other things that I'm hoping to be able to compile. But for this week, I think we're gonna end it early. Maybe 20 to 25 minutes will be our regular time, but I'm pretty certain that's a lie. It's not gonna happen that way, which I'm okay with if you're okay with it. But for now, I am going to say goodbye. But before I do, because I keep forgetting to do it, comment what you want to see in the stats section, or what you want to see in any section. I would love to be able to do like a quick Q&A section. If somebody has a question about the week that was, can always direct message me or email me. I think the ENC email is somewhere, or just put it in the comments of the video. Not a lot of people finding the channel yet, but which means that if you say something, I'll probably say something back. So if you're curious and want to know some more information other than what I already cover, let me know in the comments. And then if you have any ideas for the JMO show, let me know about that as well. If you've got something you want me to look into, I can definitely look into it for you. So with that, we are going to wrap up week 1 of the 2022-2023 regular season for today, October 15th. My name is Andrew Smith. And I'm going to find the stop recording button and then not so awkwardly look back at you and say goodbye. See you again soon.